Today, we are diving into something that could totally change how we use AI for really complex coding, a wild, experimental feature in Claude Code called agent teams. Trust me, this is a huge leap forward in AI collaboration. So let's just start with a basic question, right? We all know a single AI assistant is pretty powerful. It can even hand off simple little tasks. But what happens when the job is so big, so gnarly, that you need a real team? One that can actually talk to each other, collaborate, and coordinate things on the fly? Well, that's always been the big bottleneck, up until now. All right, so here's our game plan for today. We're going to start with the whole problem that Agent Teams was built to solve. Then we'll introduce the feature itself, see how it stacks up against the old way of doing things, show you exactly how to turn it on, and then, of course, cover the best ways to use it and all the important fine print. First up, let's talk about how things used to work. For the most part, we've had this hub and spoke system. You've got one main AI agent acting like a manager, and it spins up these little sub-agents to do some work. But here's the thing, and this is the key. Those sub-agents work in complete isolation. They just do their one job, report back to the boss, and that is it. It creates this massive traffic jam because everything has to go back through that one central agent. This slide really just lays it all out, doesn't it? Sub-agents are like a bunch of people working in separate, soundproof rooms. They can't chat, they can't share what they've learned, they can't double-check each other's work. But real-world problems, think about a deep security audit of a code base or building a big new feature with lots of moving parts. Those things demand that kind of teamwork. And that brings us to the solution, agent teams. This is Anthropic's really innovative answer to that problem, which they rolled out with the Opus 4.6 model back in February 2026. It's a whole new way of thinking, moving away from that silent worker model and into a true collaborative AI workforce. And this quote just nails the whole idea. Scott White, who's the head of products at Anthropic, put it perfectly. It's not about one agent just grinding away faster. It's about a whole team of specialized agents working together at the same time in parallel, just like you'd see with a really good human software team. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of what makes this so different. And I want to be clear, this isn't just some minor update. It's a complete architectural shift from that old sub-agent model to these new agent teams. Okay, this table is where the magic really happens. Look at this. With sub-agents, communication is just a one-way street. Report to the boss. With agent teams, it's a whole network. They can message each other directly. And check out the task list. It goes from being a top-down assignment list to a shared board where teammates can just grab the next task. This flips the entire workflow from sequential to truly parallel. Now, there is a trade-off. You see that higher token cost? We'll get to that in a bit. All right, let's get practical. I know what you're thinking. This sounds amazing. How do I try it out? Well, first things first, you have to remember this is a research preview. It is not turned on by default, and you have to follow a couple of very specific steps to get it going. It's a pretty simple two-step process, but you absolutely have to do both. First, you've got to set an experimental flag in your settings, and second, you must be using the Opus 4.6 model. This feature is exclusive to that model for now. So step one means you have to get your hands a little dirty and pop open your settings.json file. There's no fancy button in the UI for this. Because it's experimental, they want you to be intentional about turning it on. You'll need to manually add this exact line and set the value to 1. That's what tells Claude Code you're opting in. Now, once you've enabled it, you don't use some special command. You just describe the team you want in plain English. And look how specific this prompt is. You're not just saying make a team. You're defining their jobs right from the get-go. This is so important. The system sees this and knows to spin up a team instead of just a single agent. Okay, so you've got it turned on. The big question is, when should you actually use it? Let's talk about the sweet spot for agent teams, where this whole idea of parallel work really starts to pay off. This feature is absolutely perfect for any big problem you can break down into different streams of work. So think about code reviews. You could have one agent looking for security holes while another is focused on performance. Or debugging. You can have different agents test out competing theories about a bug at the exact same time. It's so much faster. Now, for the best results, here are a few pro tips. Start small. A team of 3 to 5 agents is usually perfect. It balances getting work done in parallel without creating too much communication overhead. Make sure your first prompt gives them plenty of context to start with. And this last one is critical. Try to break down the work so you don't have multiple agents trying to edit the same file at the same time. That's just a recipe for disaster. Okay, time for a little reality check. As awesome as this is, you gotta remember it's a research preview. Anthropic is still collecting data, and there are some really important limitations and costs you need to know about before you just dive in head first. The absolute most important thing to think about is the cost. Each and every teammate is its own full-blown Claude instance with its own context window. That means your token usage is going to scale up with your team size. You got to think of it as an investment. You're spending more tokens, but in return, you're getting a massive speed up and way more thorough results on those really tough problems. Since it's experimental, you should expect a few rough edges. Like you can't just pause a session and expect your team to pop right back up when you resume. Shutting down a team can be a little slow sometimes, and you can only run one team at a time in a session. These are all things that'll probably get smoothed out later, but for now, it's just part of the deal. So let's end with this. Agent Teams is way more than just a neat feature. It's really a peek into the future of how we're going to build software. I mean, if AIs can now form teams, argue about different approaches, and coordinate on complex code bases just like we do, what does that mean for our jobs? What does a software team even look like 5 years from now? It's a pretty profound thing to think about.